Imagine total darkness, not the quiet dark of a bedroom, but the crushing, suffocating blackness of a blindfold tied too tight. Your wrists are burning. The silk binding them is smooth, expensive, and cuts into your skin with every pulse of your heart. You are kneeling on cold, wet stone. The air smells of stale lamp oil and the sharp metallic tang of fear. You cannot speak. You cannot run. You can only listen. And what you hear is terrifying. From somewhere in front of you, there are 3 distinct sounds coming from 3 different directions. To your left, the soft, rhythmic sound of women weeping, chanting a prayer that sounds like a funeral dirge. To your right, the clinking of wine cups and laughter, men discussing poetry in a language you barely understand. And directly in front of you, silence. A heavy, dead silence that feels like the bottom of a deep well. You are told that in a moment, the blindfold will come off. You will see 3 heavy wooden doors. And you will have to choose. One door leads to survival. One leads to a fate worse than death. And the third leads to an erasure so complete that history will forget you ever existed. The date is October 1260. The location is a subterranean chamber beneath the city of Damascus. The woman kneeling on the floor is not a criminal. She is Catherine of Acre, a noble woman, a survivor, and she is about to become a ghost. They told her this was a processing center. They said it was just administration. But as the footsteps approach, she realizes the terrifying truth. This isn't a prison, it is a factory, and she is the raw material. Step back from the chamber, look at the scene. It is orderly, terrifyingly so. Standing in a line next to Catherine are 17 other women. They are dirty, exhausted, their fine dresses torn. Standing opposite them is a man in a pristine white robe, holding a scroll and a quill. He does not shout. He does not strike them. He simply watches. The contrast is jarring. The women are chaos and despair. The man is calm, clinical precision. This isn't a scene from a nightmare. It is a scene from the history books that most people skip over. Historians call this the Mamluk integration system. It sounds boring. It sounds like bureaucracy. But the reality was a psychological weapon designed to strip a human being of everything. Name, faith, memory, and build something else in its place. To understand why Catherine is kneeling in the dark, waiting to choose a door, we have to understand the catastrophic mistake her father made just 3 months earlier. Rewind the clock. If you walked down the streets of Acre in early 1260, you wouldn't feel fear. You would feel invincible. While the rest of the Crusader states were crumbling, Acre was still a jewel. The walls were high. The knights were armored in steel. The harbor was full of ships from Venice and Genoa. The air didn't smell of defeat. It smelled of salt, spices, and money. Listen to the city. It isn't the sound of prayer. It is the sound of commerce. Gold coins counting on tables, deals being struck. The people living here believed they were safe. They believed that their God protected them, and more importantly, their walls protected them. They were arrogant. They were comfortable. They didn't know that a storm was coming that walls could not stop. Now look at the man holding the contracts to this safety. Catherine's father, he is a merchant, a pragmatic man. He spends his days negotiating trade deals with the very people who want to destroy him. He believes that money is a universal language. Then the rumors start. The Mamluks are coming. Not the disorganized raiding parties of the past, but a disciplined, professional army led by men who were once slaves themselves. Most men would panic, Catherine's father calculates. He sends letters to Mamluk officials. He buys protection. He bribes commanders. He clutches documents sealed with wax, believing they are shields. It is the most expensive mistake of his life. Because while he trusts in paper, the Mamluks trust only in steel. He sits in his villa, hoarding gold to pay off an enemy that doesn't want his money. They want his existence. And when he finally looks over the walls, expecting to see a diplomatic envoy, he sees only the black banners of the Sultanate covering the horizon. The end comes quickly. The walls are breached. The contracts burn. Catherine's father dies not with a sword in his hand, but with a look of confusion on his face. Catherine and her mother are torn apart in the screaming chaos. She is dragged through the burning streets, past the bodies of knights who swore to protect her. She is loaded onto a cart, then a ship, then marched across the desert. But she isn't killed. That would be a waste of resources. The Mamluks don't waste anything. She is brought to Damascus, and this is where the true horror sets in. She expects a dungeon. She expects torture. Instead, she is brought to a quiet room. She is given food. She is given water. A man named Amir Tashimor enters. He is polite. He speaks softly. It is the calm of a surgeon washing his hands before an amputation. Then, the process begins. He doesn't ask for military secrets. He asks about her education. Can you read? Do you play the lute? Do you understand accounting? He is sorting inventory. And this brings us back to the 3 doors. To us, it looks like a game of chance. But you have to understand the Mamluk mind. They were slave soldiers. They had been stripped of their own families, their own names, and rebuilt into warriors. They viewed identity as something that could be edited. The 3 doors wasn't magic. It was a classification system. Door number 1, the domestic track. For the uneducated, the strong. Hard labor, anonymity, a slow death by exhaustion. Door number 2, the market, immediate sale, chaos, the unknown. But door number 3, that was the one Catherine was staring at. The administrative track, the harem. It sounds exotic. Western painters depicted it as a place of luxury and leisure, but the reality was colder, wet, heavy. Behind door 3 lay the integration program, 60 days of psychological reconditioning. Week 1, you cannot speak your own language. Week 2, you cannot use your own name. Week 3, you must forget your own God. It was a systematic erasure. They didn't break your bones, they drowned your soul. And the secrets of who you were washed away forever. Darkness again. We are back in the chamber. The blindfold is off. Catherine looks at the doors. The silence is deafening. But now she notices something. The man, Tashimor, is looking at her. He is waiting. He knows that she can read. He knows she is valuable. He gestures slightly toward the 3rd door. Catherine stands up. Her legs are numb. She walks past the weeping women. She walks past the silence. She places her hand on the iron handle of the 3rd door. It is cold. She pushes it open. Inside, there is no monster. There is only a desk, a stack of paper, and a pen, and a mirror. She steps inside. The door closes. The sound is final. Thud. It sounds like a coffin lid dropping. But Catherine doesn't die. She vanishes. For 12 years, Catherine of Acre ceases to exist. In her place is a woman named Jamila. She writes letters for the Sultan, She manages the household. She bears children who will grow up to be Mamluk warriors, fighting against the very people her father tried to save. But here's the twist. The erasure wasn't perfect. Deep down, beneath the layers of silk and Arabic poetry, Catherine was still there, waiting, watching. And 12 years later, she would use the very education they valued to find a loophole in their own law. She would stand before the Sultan not as a slave, but as a legal petitioner. She would demand her freedom, and she would get it. We look at history and see armies and battles. We forget that the most brutal wars are fought in quiet rooms, with paper and silence. The Crusader states didn't just end on a battlefield. They ended in rooms like this, where identities were dismantled one by one. Catherine walked out of that palace a free woman, but Catherine of Acre died in that room behind the third door. The golden age of the Crusades didn't end with a treaty. It ended on a Tuesday afternoon with the quiet click of a latch. We look at our names, our identities, and we feel secure. But Catherine felt secure too. She believed her father's contracts would save her. We forget that history is written by the people who hold the pen. The Scarlet archives remind us that sometimes the most terrifying thing isn't being killed. It is being rewritten.